Hello and welcome back to today's final splash of paint. Now it's time to see what popular pencil wizard Malcolm Cudmore conjured up when we asked him to reveal a few inspirational items that he keeps hidden in his magical pencil case.
As a pencil artist and inveterate sketcher of pictures from live subjects, there are two things I really would never be without, and I've got them on the table here. The first of which is a clutch pencil. In fact, I've got lots of clutch pencils. It's a mechanical device that holds a lead, or the sort of centre that you would have in a regular pencil. Holds it mechanically. The advantage, well, several advantages. First and most important of which is, because the centre of the pencil, the lead, is allowed to come out mechanically and you stop it where you wish, the pencil that you're working with is always exactly the same length. So it doesn't diminish in size, and so you don't have to get used to both a long pencil and working with a little stubby one, and inevitably that would give you different marks. With a clutch pencil, your pencil is always exactly the same length, and that means that the marks you make can be fairly consistent. You can buy the centre leads for these pencils in all the same kinds of grades that you would get in regular pencils. That's, you know, from H, probably 2H up to about 6 or 8B. This is an HB1. I've got quite a few of them. I keep different leads in them. This one has a 2B lead in it. I've got one here with a 6B lead. You can get them in this size. This is a 2mm core, and you can buy replacements of those. You can get very narrow ones. These are more often thought of as draftsman's pencils, but still a clutch pencil. The mechanism is slightly different in size. These are much, much narrower. This is actually less than 1mm in width. And again, you buy little packs of the separate leads to go inside at lots of different grades. There's one here. This is a 2B one, I think. And I wouldn't be without them. I carry them in my little sketching wallet, which happens to be one of these Derwent pencil wraps, in my bag at all times. Them and my digital camera, and I'm never without them. So I get used to the marks I can make with these, different grades of pencil, just as in your regular pencil. You get different kinds of marks, and they never need sharpening, and they're always the same length, and that's very useful to me. Now, the second product I wouldn't be without is this. It's a battery eraser. They are really cost effective, very, very cheap. It's very simple. It's a small electric motor powered by a couple of batteries. Inside the end of the motor is a little shaft that spins round. Inside the shaft you can put little cylinders of eraser, and they're made of exactly the same kind of thing that a regular pencil eraser is. When you press the button, it spins round. Now, that means that you've got an instrument with which you can draw negatively. Obviously, a regular pencil eraser is a very blunt instrument. You have to move it around to get it to work. With these, you can be very, very precise. I do hope the camera can pick that up. It means I can actually draw into my tone to create highlights. Here's a little tip that I use all the time. These little cylinders of eraser are flat at the ends, and for a long time I used them on the sort of pointed edge, as it were. And then I discovered that you could, of course, sharpen them against a piece of sandpaper, and you end up with an eraser that is pointed. So for really tight details and very subtle modification of your tones and your values that have already been rendered in graphite, a pointed end really, really very helpful. So, two things I would really never be without. On my desert island, I'd be taking these with me: clutch pencils and battery erasers.
Great to see how precision engineering achieves perfect pencil point results. Thanks, Malcolm. We've just got time to answer a few more of your artistic questions that you've been sending into the Splash of Paint studio. Let's get started with this one from Ken Gamble, who asks, I enjoy watching the programme, and in particular watching Malcolm Cudmore with his coloured pencils. And I noticed that his pencils have a very long sharp point to them. Could you recommend a brand of sharpener to achieve a crisp point to do finer work? Well, Ken, I spoke to Malcolm and he likes the classic manual helix sharpener, something like the X-Acto one I have here. These are really good sharpeners and give you a great long strong point. The great thing about these sharpeners is that the blade is on the inside and it rotates around the pencil, so it doesn't go blunt the same as a traditional sharpener may do. Another option, if you don't fancy the bulky option there, is to go for a long point pencil sharpener. These sharpeners allow you to go and have fully control over the point and the lead on your pencil, giving you a perfect point. I can show you this. It's got two different options, 1 and 2. If you put it in number 1 and give it a good sharpen, this will sharpen just the wood. And then, once you've had a bit of a session in number 1, you can stick it in number 2. And look at the size of that. But it's not touched the actual lead. If you go for number 2, it just sharpens the actual lead. And this gives you a pencil that will last quite a long time, as you can see. And Carol Apps has emailed to ask, how do you paint and blend clouds? I notice you work from right to left. If you are left-handed, do you work from left to right? I still have a problem doing it, although I practice a lot. Well, Carol, I can show you this. I've got a bit of paper ready and some paints there. I'm just going to do a very quick sky just to give you an idea. I've got a large size 20 brush there, just make sure it's nice and clean. I'm just going to dampen a little area on the paper in the centre. And as always, when you do a wet into wet sky, which most skies in watercolours would be, just sort of dampen the area. And then always put a pale yellow at the bottom of the sky. So I've got some natural yellow there. I'm just going to sweep that across the bottom. It's always good to put that warmth to the base of the sky. Clean brush. And then we'll go for the blue. Now, I don't tend to work too wet with the brush or the paper. So sweeping across the top with the blue, bring it down in horizontal brush strokes until it fades in to the actual sandy yellow colour. There you go. And then we'll go for the clouds. Now, you mentioned in your email as regards working left to right, right to left, etc., between left and right-handed people. To be honest, it's whichever direction you feel most natural with. And if I'm teaching at a workshop or an art group or something, I tend to stand to this side of the board, so therefore I tend to paint like this. If I'm painting at home, or in this situation, I'd probably feel more natural coming down that way. So it depends on where you are. Best bit of advice for the clouds is just pick up a little bit of colour and just wipe the excess off on the side of your palette. And it's a smaller brush, it's a size 6. And when you bring the clouds on, put the brush flat to the paper and just twist the grey. You sort of wobble it a little bit. Now, if you find the colour goes on too thin or too pale, I'll make it a bit darker just so you can see better. Bring it across and just twist and move down. And then once you've done the row of cloud, clean your brush, give it a bit of a squeeze, and just gently, if I said wipe the bottoms, you might know what I mean, just wipe it away. And it just kind of makes it all disappear in. Now, just to prove the point, if I go a little bit stronger, it works the other way as well. That's a much darker cloud just so you can see. But it's the dry brush effect. It's whichever way comes the most natural. Clean the brush, give it a bit of a squeeze, and then just lightly soften it all the way at the base there. And there you go, Carol. Hopefully that's answered your question. Well, folks, that's all we've got time for today. But remember, for more artistic inspiration, advice and top tips, log on to the saa.co.uk website or contact us here at the Splash of Paint studio. Email us at splashofpaint@saa.co.uk and we'll try our very best to help. Join us next week when we take a look at what happens when all the leaves have disappeared in the concluding part of our Trees Through the Seasons feature. And we'll take a closer look at the wonderful work of versatile SAA professional artist Denise Allen. And Jeff Kersey returns to the Splash of Paint studio to share his top tips for achieving picture-perfect results. And popular artist Marilyn Alice returns to give us another one of her inspirational try-your-hand-at projects. We look forward to seeing you next time for another colourful edition of Splash of Paint.
For a free splash of the bi-monthly Paint magazine, packed full of stimulating step-by-step guides, fantastic features and artistic advice from all your favourite TV artists, visit www.saa.co.uk.